Perfect. All right. So the plan tonight is to kind of give you a lowdown of what everything is going to happen with Apex this fall. Obviously, we've all had to learn a lot of new technology, learn a lot of new to be flexible, right? And so Apex is going to look different, and it's not particularly all because of COVID. Actually, there's several reasons for the change. This has kind of been all last year. We've been talking about kind of like what 2020 and 2021 is going to look like, because we knew that there had to be some changes made. And so that was well before COVID-19 ever happened. And so these changes aren't a response necessarily to COVID, though several of these things are going to be actually helpful because of, or with COVID, or whatever, however you want to say it. But yeah, so everything that we've done has been prayed about, talked with the staff, and kind of approved by the staff and elders. And that's what we'll be talking about for the most part. But before we start the meeting, I just love to pray for us real quick. So if you guys want to pray along with me. God, we thank you so much. First off, I thank you for technology. This is pretty cool that we can have this meeting, that we can still do this from the comfort of our own homes, and we can and still talk about what this ministry has, and honestly what I think you have for this year, and how we can use this ministry and this platform to honor you, God, and crown you as King in every possible way. And so and to teach our teenagers to do the same. So God, you are good. Your provisions are good, and we pray that we would use your resources, we would use your provisions for your glory, God. And so all this in your name, Jesus. Amen. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's see how well we can do this. There we go. Awesome. So how does that look for you? Do you get this whole, like a whole big Apex logo right now?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. So what we will do now is, we're just not, this I won't take a ton of time on. Several of you already know this. The Apex vision, I just wanted to point out, is the exact same vision as Crossview's vision. So our job in Apex is identical to adult church or big church, or however you want to put it. It's the same thing. It's loving God, loving others, and serving the world. But the difference in Apex is we break it down a little bit differently. You'll notice similarities, but there is some differences. And so when we say, kind of breaking this down into 3 parts, loving God is what we want to do our students, is to teach them to connect to Jesus through conversations, through worship, through stories, teaching, and prayer. And so ultimately, whatever model we have, regardless of if it's in person or if it's online or if it's anywhere, our goal is to do this, is to connect our students to Jesus and make sure that that's happening. And so you'll never see Apex look like Boys and Girls Club, for example. Like, I mean, I do think Boys and Girls Club is a great organization, but that's not us. Like, our job is not to get together and be goofy. Our job is to get together and connect to Jesus. And so sometimes we're goofy. They're students, they're teenagers. It's going to be goofy, but our ultimate goal is to love God, love others, and serve the world. And we love God by connecting to Jesus through conversations, worship, stories, teachings, and prayer. Loving others, break this down, is our goal is to connect students with each other and to adult mentors to experience what it means to be part of the body of Christ. And so, like Dan has said, like, we cannot do Christianity, we cannot follow Jesus alone. Like, that's just not, it's not how we were designed. We were designed for community. And I think we were designed for intergenerational community. And so I think if we go throughout life without participating in the gospel message, the gospel mission, without being intergenerational, then we're missing out on what God has to do in our lives. And so I think for students, that means to connect to an adult chaperone, or to an adult, not a chaperone, I apologize, mentor, discipler. It's actually, what I meant to say is it's the exact opposite of just a chaperone. Like, My goal for our leaders is not to be chaperones, not to be just there to watch and observe, but to engage, disciple, and participate with one another. And so that is our goal. And then for students to also participate with one another as well as they grow in their relationships, to kind of set up a foundation for what it looks like to have small groups and to be involved with one another. Because I think that's what it means to be a participant of the church. The church is not a building, right? And I know that I do it all the time too, so I'm not like getting too hard on this, but like we always say, like the church is not a building, it's not a service, it's not a thing you do, rather it's a people, and we are the church. And so that's what we try to embody through Apex, is to teach students to be part of the body of Christ. And then lastly, serving the world. The idea behind this is to provide opportunities for students to live out their faith in real and practical ways. And that's proclaiming the good news of Jesus. We do that in several different ways daily. We're missionaries at home. We teach our students to be missionaries at home, school, and virtually. I actually added that this year because I was like, I don't know why that's never been part of it. We, half of our teenagers' lives are virtual right now. Even before COVID, that's kind of already been a thing. So we do that, be missionaries intentionally all the time. We serve the world weekly. We give opportunities for students to serve in the body. Now this has been weird recently, but there has been opportunities for students to serve within the church, and that should be coming back soon as we start kind of moving back indoors, and that's going to be starting to happen in the next few weeks. Quarterly, you'll see this on the calendar as we go a little bit later. We do these things called Apex Reaches, which are outreaches. They are designed to reach our community through service projects. We have worked with nursing homes. We've done evangelist kind of style, we call them actually pizza deliveries, and the goal was to go to houses within the neighborhoods, pray for people there, and give them a gift, and just show them that we care about them. We've worked with the Hannah Center before. We've worked with foster families, delivering meals and working with them. We've done a few things, and this year we'll be doing that again, probably with the Hannah Center as one of them, as they're kind of moving into our community. But also, you'll kind of see as we get to it. And then lastly, annually. So this one was strange last year too, because we didn't have VBS. We do alternate between missions and discipleship focused. This coming summer, God willing, will be a mission-focused trip. Now, what that looks like might be different. So we may not go out of the country. I don't know. Like, we just don't know what flights look like right now. Like with COVID-19, how long is this going to last? Everything's held with open hands at this point. But ultimately, God is in control no matter what, and we will be mission-focused, and that may look different, or it may look similar to past years. Just not sure right now, but just so you know, that is going to be the focus for summer of 2021. It will be mission focused. And so the hope is to do some form of stateside mission trip, but even if it were a Project Wood County or something like that, where we would be focusing locally, I don't know. That's all up kind of in the possibility realm right now. Usually my goal is to release what we're going to be doing for the summer before or near Christmas, so that we can start on our fundraising events, but we'll get to that. Now, I teased during church today, during our service today, that we are going to have a new time. And this is kind of happening because of the format. And so you'll see right now, our time is going to be from 6:30 to 8, as opposed to our previous year, which was 6:30 to 8:30. And that's for a few different reasons. One of the reasons was when we got done at 8:30, small groups would generally get done a little bit later, so kids would hang around in their small groups, and parents, you know this, like they'd come out at like 8:45 or whatever. And a lot of times what would happen is when I would get into, when there would be issues that would arise, that we'd find out drama, something serious that needed to be dealt with, I would find out around 9 o'clock. And by the time that parents kind of came in, like this actually happened a few times, not all the time, but it happens. And we'd had to have like parents come in, and it starts at 9 o'clock. We didn't leave the building until like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And it was like, well, actually that was very hard when you'd have these like serious conversations happening afterwards. And so this is going to help with that. Yeah, that's kind of like one of the reasons. But the main reason for this is because of our new format. And so, like I said, everything here is going to be helpful for COVID, but it's not inspired by COVID-19. It's actually inspired for other reasons that I'll get to in a minute. But the format that we're going to be moving to looks a little bit like this. So basically, around 6:30, we would arrive, and we would do this like upfront. We always do this, right? Upfront hangout time. Games to kind of keep our students moving, keep them active. Like I said, we're not a Boys and Girls Club, so our main focus isn't games, but we're working with teenagers. So there's going to be games involved. There's going to be things to kind of get them moving, active, and communicating with one another. Because if you try to sit down teenagers in a room that don't know each other before games, especially middle schoolers, it just doesn't work. But if you have games, it's really easy to kind of break down those barriers. 7 o'clock is when we're moving into the teaching. And this is the biggest difference, because this is when we'll do teaching and our small groups together. And so the plan is when we do meet back into the church, the plan is to kind of move into the sanctuary area and set up kind of small group tables around. And what this will allow us to do is it'll allow me to do a teaching and teach for 5-10 minutes and ask a question and say, all right, now in your small groups, I want you to talk about this. And it allows me to be kind of the facilitator of these conversations going on. And I can go around and I can actually be in the moment responding to groups. What I found last year was one of the big problems is when I was teaching middle school while high schoolers were having their small groups, and then I'd be teaching the high school where the middle school were having small groups, there'd be these opportunities where it would be like, kids or leaders wanted my attention. They wanted to ask me a question, how to deal with something, and then, but I'd be stuck in this kind of like teaching role. And though there was a lot of positives to that, I was unable to kind of at all interact with any small groups. And so the way that we do this, it'll allow me to participate with groups, but it'll also allow for groups to go. And if we do have leaders, if we are short on leaders, this will allow for us to be able to kind of share the load a little bit better. One of the biggest reasons, and this is where I was saying I was teasing before, one of the biggest reasons that we're switching this model is simply because we are very short on adult leaders. Last year, we were kind of at our bare bones minimum, and it was pretty tight the entire year, and which was okay when people were fully there. But then when flu season hit, or like colds or whatever, all of a sudden it was like we just would have to throw everything out and be like, okay, well, Kale's got to jump in with this group of 8th grade boys because we don't have a leader, or Kale's got to jump in with this group of girls, or whatever it was. And it was just kind of like this weird, awkward thing. So we just didn't have enough leaders. And so what this will do is it kind of gives us a full a semester or 2 semesters, probably 2 semesters, where we can kind of build up that volunteer base again, and I can be more of a facilitator. My honest belief is that I think the majority of growth happens in teenagers during small groups. And I'm not naive enough to think that everything I'm saying is being listened to in the moment. That would be really naive if I actually believe that. But I think that type of growth and learning actually happens in small group when you're breaking down the teaching, when you're talking it through together as a group in a community style. And so the hope is to really focus on that this semester and this year, and try to facilitate that as best as possible. And then that allows us, so 40 minutes later, to have a dig deeper time, I'm calling it, or just hang out. And so that gives us a chance to potentially, it'll give an extra 20 minutes where it's like, well, if anyone wants to come to this smaller table or something, like Kale will lead another small group, and it'll be, if you have questions about this or want to talk, we have that opportunity. And it does allow then for a little bit of extra time on hanging out on the tail end, where it feels like if a student wanted to have a conversation, wanted to be there till 8:30 or something like that, it wouldn't be cutting into their sleeping time, if that makes sense. So this is the model we're going to be going with this fall. And if you have any questions about it, actually, I'll hold off questions till the end, but then feel free to kind of write that down right now or something. Next up, fall venue. I also said this morning that we are going to be changing venues. Now this isn't a permanent change. I said that because coming this fall, we are not going to be meeting in the Apex room. Rather, we will be meeting at Red Sands Beach Pavilion. And so this is at Wazeecha, South Wood County Park. I put the address at the bottom of the screen there if you want to see it. The plan is to kind of turn this area into a outdoor venue, kind of socially distanced, but also still be able to have smaller groups so that we can kind of like put at tables or whatever. And so I'll still be encouraging students to social distance, wear masks, but outdoor, at least, it becomes a much more safer for those who are concerned with this. And so for 6 weeks, the plan is to meet at Red Sands. We've rented out this lodge for the first night. It's kind of pricey, so I'm actually going to see if it's a possibility to rent it and then just show up, because I've looked back the past 3 months, no one's ever rented this for a Wednesday night. And there happens to be to the, south side of this, there is another pavilion as well. So I was like, well, if there happened to be somebody in there, we could always go to the other one too. But the plan is to be here and meeting outdoors for the first 6 weeks. Then on the 7th week, we have an outreach night, which we will not be at the church anyway. And then the 8th week of Apex, we'll be meeting back.
And I tested it, and he saw me logging in to his meeting.
Oh, is that Ryan? Is that Ryan? I hear Ryan. There we go. Okay. Anyway, so we got this working, and that's gonna be the plan. Okay. Now, next, I'd kind of like to go a little bit over what the teaching calendar is going to look like. And so the plan for this year, you don't have to read the whole thing. I'll provide this in a PDF form, and you can have it, you can print it off, put it on the fridge if you want. But this is the year. For the most part this year, we're going to be working through the book of James. And what I really like about James is it is very focused on wisdom, which when I started thinking about what do our teenagers need, I was thinking wisdom. That sounds like a good spot to start, right? Like we can talk about wisdom. And you'll see throughout the calendar, there's going to be a few different breaks. Now I'm really excited about this year. We do have some guest speakers coming. I have a missionary coming on the 7th. We'll have, Dan's gonna be taking the night on the 11th. Jen's gonna be helping me on one of the nights. There's gonna be, and even Jordan Huffman, who works in our Forest Lakes district and used to be a youth pastor at Woodlands, is gonna be helping me out with one of the nights too. I thought it'd be really cool for our students to kind of hear some different voices. But you'll see on this calendar that there are some special events that are off-site, and then the main nights that won't be Apex at all are just the holidays: Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and spring break. Let me see if there was one other thing I wanted to mention while we were here. Oh, yeah. So this is a date. We're going to go into a slide in the next slide. But 10-9 through 10-11 is going to be our middle school fall retreat. And so this happens every year. This is not new, but I wanted to say that I have been kind of working really closely with Silver Birch Ranch, and they have put together some pretty cool kind of COVID response team stuff. One of the things that they've done is they will test their I guess you could call them employees, but their counselors. Every time that they come in, they take their temperature and reading, and they monitor their symptoms. They also will give us forms to use to fill out before we go, and that'll be a 7-day symptom and temperature reading that we would just take before coming to the camp as we kind of prepare to go. And I can send you guys, I will send you in the near future kind of like what their plan is, but it impressed me as I spoke with, I can't remember the name of the man who runs it. I've talked to him too many times to not remember his name, but his plan has definitely impressed me. And so we still plan to do a formal middle school fall retreat. Back to the calendar, you'll notice that there is not a districts for the high school. But instead, I have something called Winter Blast. And so this year, we're going to try something new. So districts is 4,000 students packed into one large area, and that just seems really unwise. And I think our Forest Lakes district has recognized that as well as being unwise. And so they are not going to be hosting a district-wide youth conference. But that being said, we as Apex, as Crossview Church, we are going to be doing something called Winter Blast. And the plan is to kind of model it similar to a middle school fall retreat, but we're looking at other camps. And I was really close to telling you the name of the camp. I'm very close to booking it right now. We're kind of in the process. We're in the process of that purchase right now, or the reservation, I guess, the down payment, but it hasn't completely gone through. So I'm going to hold off for a minute, but you'll hear about that very soon. We'll advertise that once we have more information on that. But we do know that it will be January of 2021 for high school. And so fall retreat for middle school would be anyone incoming 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And I usually will bring a couple high school leaders to kind of help out. But high school would be any 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th graders would be able to be welcome to come to Winter Blast. Attendance at Snowday, so we talked about this. Oh, we did not talk about this. This has kind of been one of those things that has been paved through with COVID-19. Now that we have, Apex owns a subscription to Zoom, and we can kind of do this as long as we want, and we can host these Zoom meetings. My plan is, if there were to be a snow day, to do some form of Apex online Zoom session. And so that's the plan for any snow days. We cancel Apex whenever school cancels is kind of the model that we've been going off of, or if we just feel like it's unsafe, say it gets worse after school is canceled. But generally speaking, we will usually cancel in the same days that schools cancel. As far as attendance goes, we do actually take attendance at Apex. We do this just to monitor kind of who is showing up, who's coming. It helps me as kind of the pastor of the ministry to be able to follow up with students who haven't shown up. That if maybe it's just easy to, like, if 3 weeks go by and all of a sudden, like, oh, that person, I don't think they've been here, have they? And it's easy for me to kind of go back. It's also good for safety, honestly. It's just good to kind of keep track. Leaders who are there and students who are all there. So we do have tablets that kind of allow us to help with that. Now this year, one thing that I'm changing is security. So Manda is my head of security. She's here today. So thank you, Manda. Thank you for being my head of security. And one of the things I'd like to do this year would be to help recruit some of our parents. And so in the same way that like soccer practices or whatever, we'll often have you take on one of the practices or bring the snacks one of the weeks or whatever. I'm going to ask this year that parents of Apex students come one night per year to come and just help out with the security. And so the reason for this is it's a big building for Amanda to kind of cruise on her own. And it's really helpful to kind of have another set of eyes checking out the worship sanctuary, checking out kind of the areas, just making sure kids are where they're supposed to be. This year is going to be, yeah, like a little bit different, being that we won't have small groups taking up all of those nooks and crannies around the whole church. What was convenient about our previous model last year was that when I was teaching, small groups were meeting, and that meant that there were small groups in every room of the church, essentially. We would have one every other classroom and every nursery room and everywhere you could go, there was a small group. And so there really wasn't any hidden corners or anything like that. With the new model this year, that's not the same. And so I think security is going to be increasing. A need for security will be increasing. And so my plan is to send out a sign up, some sort of sign up form, and you can select any number, if you want to do more than one, by all means go for it, but to try to fill up every week of the year with some parent, and so that just means that at minimum take one night, and chances are you might even like it. It's pretty fun. It's a fun night, and so I'm not expecting this to be a problem. I think it'll be pretty fun to have some parents there to help out. Other than that, I think that is all we have. And so now Dan wasn't here to be here tonight. I was going to tease him a little bit because I at the end of every meeting like this, I like to call these times Q&R. And I call them that because I think that I'm going to take time to field some questions, but I don't have answers. And so I might not have answers. I can't promise an answer, but I can promise a response. And so that's what I always say. Dan has told me, I don't know, Cale, because the word I don't know is an appropriate answer. And so I'm like, okay. So he calls them Q&A. I was going to tease him about it, but you can make your choice. Q&R, Q&A, whichever. But this is an open time for you to field your questions. And you can hear Emmett right now probably in the background. He's coming to say. But here's a time to ask any questions, and I will answer it to the best of my ability, or at least give you a response. No questions. All right. That means I communicated perfectly, doesn't it? I doubt it. No. If any other questions do show up, I'll wait like 2 more minutes. If anyone, or not 2 more minutes, 2 more seconds. If you want to ask any questions, but always feel free to email me. Always feel free to follow along. I do send out parent emails. Chances are, if you're here, you're probably getting those parent emails. But if you're viewing this recording afterwards, then try to get onto those parent emails. All important Apex information comes through those. And it also gives you a link to the parent blog. And so usually what I do after every Apex lesson is I will kind of re-summarize that lesson into a kind of like a bite-sized parent version, and then kind of give you ways to apply it or start conversations within the family, and be able to partner as a ministry. And that's kind of the key word here is I want to partner with parents so that we are doing discipleship together, because it is, I'll use this word again, naive for me to think that I am the primary spiritual influence in any child's life. The truth is the primary spiritual influence in any child's life is going to be from the family. It's going to be from home, and it's going to be from the parents. And that can be terrifying. It's terrifying for me to think about for my son and daughter, but that's the truth. And whatever that family looks like, whether it's Christian or not, I think that those are going to be the primary influences, and it's going to shape those children's mind. And so I want to partner with parents in the best way possible so that we can be having conversations together back and forth, as well as talking kind of what Apex is doing and what how we can work together. So, but other than that, if we have no other questions for today,
Cale, I have a question.
Perfect.
I was wondering, will you be doing like a, I don't know, like a Bible reading plan or any kind of thing like that with the students, or a devotion that they can go to each day?
Yeah, so hey buddy. So the plan is to we've actually been doing that through the summer, just on the Facebook pages, and trying to, I've been participating with a bunch of people on the Bible app reading plan. And so It's been pretty cool, because like at the end of every day, it gives us a chance to have discussion, gives us a chance to kind of talk through it. And so we do something like that right now. And what we're doing right now is following through the church reading plan. Once Apex starts up, my plan is to kind of start our own version of that. And so, yes, we will do some form of reading plan for sure.
Okay. I just wondered if it would be different than the church's one, based on your lessons. So
yeah, generally, yeah. So it'll probably be our own version. Some weeks we might go with the church's version, but occasionally, I think that. Sometimes we'll go with the church's version. I just want to take some that are maybe more intended for teenagers to kind of follow along. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. Good question.
So in case you can do the mission trip next summer, that's something that is only a high schoolers that would go with you?
Nope. So what we did 2 years ago, so we didn't do anything this current summer. So last, I guess, not 2 years ago, last summer. I took a group of middle schoolers down to Madison, and that honestly was a killer trip. It was amazing. And so we may do something like that again, or at least something through Next Step Ministries, which is kind of who we partner with for that one. We'd probably do something like that again for the middle schoolers. But for high schoolers, we took them to Mexico. I don't foresee that necessarily happening again, just unless everything changes and flights are opened up and everything like kind of goes back to normal. That probably, hey buddy. I think that could potentially be hard, and so chances are I'll be looking for something else. If we do regular style missions, chances are we'll do somewhere close by Midwest for middle school, and we'll probably do something stateside for high schoolers as well. But God willing, everything's held out with open hands right now.
Okay. Great.
Good question. Thank you.
I want it, Mommy.
Okay.
I want it, Mom.
Yeah, sit with Mom. Yeah.
Well, if that's all we have, then we should be good to go. Like I no other questions involved. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Thank you so much for kind of following in, and it's been, yeah, this is awesome. It's totally different, right? Like this is strange, not the normal parent meeting, right? We usually do this in the Apex room, but I look forward to starting up Apex with your teenagers in about a week. Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Kale.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Gail.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yes, you
Good night.
too.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Declan.
Future Apex. Right?
Bye-bye.
Cool. Bye, Emma.
Oh, for the Silver Birch Ranch, I would be willing to go if you need any help.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have your help.